The 2022 Men's US Open was set to be one of the most unpredictable tournaments of the whole year, with several players having the potential to take the trophy home and receive a massive boost in the rankings. Rafael Nadal seemed like the favorite to take the title, which would have been his third Grand Slam of the year, but was out of form as he had only played one match since pulling out of the Wimbledon semis, which was a loss to Borna Coric in Cincinnati. World number 1 Daniil Medvedev entered the tournament the reigning champ, and was also seen as a possible threat to make at least the semis. If Daniil didn't do well at the US Open, however, his number 1 spot would be in serious jeopardy and could easily be overtaken by Nadal or someone else as long as they made it far in the competition. Djokovic, on the other hand, would have been a serious contender for the title, but due to the US's travel restrictions on unvaccinated visitors, he would not be allowed to enter the country. Borna Coric and Nick Kyrgios were the two other big picks to win the US Open, as Coric was coming off his incredible week in Cincinnati, and Kyrgios was coming off an incredible stretch of play, which included making the Wimbledon finals, winning the Washington DC singles and doubles titles, and defeating Medvedev in the Montreal Masters. So, with no true favorite and the year-end number 1 rank still very much up for grabs, fans anxiously watched as the US Open first round began on August 29th. The round of 128 ended up being much more turbulent than you might have expected, with 4th-seeded Stefanos Tsitsipas losing in the first round to qualifier Daniel Ilahi Galan in 4 sets, a match in which he dropped the first 2 sets 6-0, 6-1. 10th-seeded American Taylor Fritz also lost in the first round to 303rd ranked qualifier Brandon Holt, committing 55 unforced errors in the process. Fritz claimed the wind had played a factor in his loss, but overall stated he was very disappointed with how he played in the match. For the rest of the highly ranked players, it was mostly smooth sailing into the second round, though Andrei Rublev and Jannik Sinner both had to win in 5 sets. In the round of 64, Felix Auger-Aliassime and Hubert Hurkacz, the 6th and 8th seeds respectively, both lost. Hurkacz has lost in either the first or second round in 3 out of 4 Grand Slams this year, and very clearly struggles in 3-set matches, which will have to change if he ever wants to break into the top 5. Auger-Aliassime, on the other hand, had good results in the first 2 Grand Slams of the year, but lost in the first 2 rounds of both Wimbledon and the US Open, this time being beaten in just 3 sets by Jack Draper. Borna Coric also lost in the second round to American Jenson Brooksby. The Croatian was dispatched in 3 sets, despite having 7 set points in the second set, all of which were saved by Brooksby. However, possibly the most surprising part of the round was when Nadal almost broke his nose when he accidentally hit himself in the face during his match against Fabio Fognini. Luckily, the injury wasn't too serious and Nadal would pull through to win in 4 sets. The third round saw no major upsets, with Daniil Medvedev continuing his title defense with a win over qualifier Wu Yibing, who was the first Chinese male player to win a match at the US Open in 63 years. And, after winning his match in the second round, became the first Chinese male to make a Grand Slam third round since 1946. However, the Russian ended the historic campaign with a straight sets victory over Yibing. Nick Kyrgios also won his match in straight sets, setting up a much hyped clash between him and Medvedev for the second time in the past month. Their previous battle ending in Nick Kyrgios knocking the Russian out of the Montreal Masters in the second round. Nadal and Alcaraz also both got relatively easy victories to move into the round of 16, but Casper Ruud had to beat Tommy Paul in 5 sets to move on. Andrei Rublev and Denis Shapovalov played out the match of the tournament up to that point, a 5-setter with Rublev eventually emerging as the victor in a final set superbreaker. Jack Draper got injured and was forced to retire in his match against Karen Khachanov, sending the Russian into his second Grand Slam round of 16 in 2022, where he would face Montreal champion Pablo Carreño Busta. The US Open round of 16 was easily the craziest round of the tournament. Nick Kyrgios managed to fulfill his fans' hopes by defeating Medvedev in 4 sets, meaning the Russian would lose 2,000 points and his number 1 ranking by the end of the tournament. The 3 players who had the chance to claim the number 1 spot were Rafael Nadal, Carlos Alcaraz, and Casper Ruud. Nadal had much more points than both Alcaraz and Ruud, and as long as he won a couple more matches, he would pretty much be guaranteed the number 1 rank. However, his round of 16 opponent Frances Tiafoe had other plans. Tiafoe managed to pull off possibly the biggest upset of the entire year, defeating the title favorite Nadal in the 4th round, meaning Alcaraz or Ruud just had to make the finals in order to become the world number 1 now. Andrei Rublev beat Cameron Norrie, the last British player left in the draw, in straight sets to reach his 6th major quarterfinals in his career. Karen Khachanov also managed to pull off an upset against Pablo Carreño Busta in 5 sets. The Spaniard was reportedly feeling sick around the second and third sets, and was seen taking tablets during changeovers. He likely was struggling with a stomach issue due to the hot and humid conditions of the US Open, and tanked the end of the third set. Carreño Busta rallied back to win the fourth, but Khachanov overcame him in the fifth set to move into his third career Grand Slam quarterfinals. Carlos Alcaraz overcame Marin Cilic in 5 sets, knocking out the last player still in the draw to have previously won a Grand Slam. In total, 4 out of the 8 round of 16 matches went to 5 sets, and 4 matches ended in the lower ranked player winning the contest. The quarterfinals kicked off with Ruud vs Berrettini, a match that seemed like it could go into 5 sets, that ended up being a 3-set thrashing by Casper Ruud. Berrettini at one point trailed 6-1, 5-1 before finally waking up and won 3 straight games before dropping the set. The third set ended up being much closer than the previous 2, but Ruud still managed to take it, further raising his hopes to become both the first Norwegian Grand Slam champion and the first Norwegian world number 1. The evening match would be the blockbuster Khachanov-Kyrgios matchup, which I honestly expected Kyrgios to win in 4. However, Khachanov managed to edge out the Australian in an epic 5-setter that ended around 1 AM. Nick seemed to have an issue with his leg during the first set, but did not show any more signs of pain after the second set. The two split the first 4 sets, but Khachanov managed to break early in the 5th and held on to win 6-4. The Russian seemed to be in control of the entire match, even during the sets he lost, and committed over 20 less unforced errors than Kyrgios while maintaining the same amount of aces as him, something that is very rarely achieved by any player on the tour, and would now move into his first ever Grand Slam semifinal. Day 2 of the quarters saw Frances Tiafoe, fresh off his Nadal win, beat Andrei Rublev in just 3 sets to become the first American male to make the US Open semifinals since 2006, winning 88% of points on his first serve in the match. The last quarterfinal match would be the much-hyped 4th contest between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. In my previous video, I stated that Alcaraz and Sinner were the 2 players I thought were most likely to take over after the big 3 retire, in terms of title domination, which they both have done a good job of already, and production of entertaining matches, which they absolutely proved with their display at the US Open, playing out one of the tournament's greatest matches of all time. The first set began with Alcaraz breaking Sinner's serve, and, after more breaks by both players, Alcaraz would hold on to win 6-3. The second set saw Sinner take a 5-4 lead on his serve, but was broken while trying to close it out. Alcaraz won the next game on his serve and managed to get 3 set points on Sinner's next service game, all of which were saved by the Italian. He got another set point in the same game, which he also failed to convert on. If you notice, this is very similar to what happened in their match in Umag. The two went on to play an epic tiebreaker and, after several set points saved by both, Sinner emerged victorious, and went on to win the next set as well, leaving no more room for error for Alcaraz. However, the Spaniard managed to pull through, winning the 4th set after saving a match point and finally overcoming the Italian in the 5th set, securing a spot in his first ever Grand Slam semifinal. The match lasted over 5 hours and set the record for the latest finish in the history of the US Open, with Alcaraz winning the final point right around 2:50 AM. If Sinner and Alcaraz really do become the dominant forces / rivalry in professional tennis, people will look back on this match as to where it all began. Of course, I've talked about this match all without mentioning how more than half of all the points were extremely impressive highlight reels, or how the match highlights themselves were more than 45 minutes long. Alcaraz very clearly still needs to work on converting set and break points, but a win over a pretty much flawless Jannik Sinner is pretty good regardless. The semifinals kicked off with Casper Ruud beating Karen Khachanov in 4th sets, sending the Norwegian into his second Grand Slam final and guaranteeing him at least the number 2 rank. On the other side, Alcaraz managed to beat Frances Tiafoe in 5 sets to move into his first career Grand Slam final, also guaranteeing him at least the number 2 rank. Tiafoe ended up going 8-0 in tiebreakers over the course of the tournament and collected some of the biggest wins of his career, but just did not have enough left in the tank to surpass Alcaraz, as the Spaniard won a 3rd straight 5-set match to advance into the finals. Alcaraz and Ruud would now play for both their first Grand Slam title of their careers, but also the world number 1 rank. Alcaraz started strong, winning the first set 6-4, but Ruud bounced back, convincingly winning the second set 6-2. The turning point of the match was towards the end of the 3rd set, when at 6-5 Alcaraz saved 2 set points on his serve and thoroughly dominated the tiebreaker, winning it 7-1. And, after 3 hours and 20 minutes, Carlos Alcaraz took the 4th set 6-4, winning his very first Grand Slam title and becoming the youngest world number 1 ever at just 19 years and 121 days old. The Spaniard proved he could live up to his incredibly high expectations that have loomed over him for years, and undoubtedly has many more Grand Slam titles in his near future. All in all, the US Open ended up being easily the most chaotic out of the 4 Grand Slams this year, and it will be interesting to see if the next generation will finally begin overtaking the big 3 in terms of Grand Slam domination in the coming years. Thank you for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.